Hello and welcome to the latest in a series of tank talks, where we will see which is the best tank for each major power in the Second World War. Starting off, we will do one of the more famous nations and the whole reason the war started, Germany.
Because, as we all know, four idiots who watch an anime about tanks definitely know what they're fucking doing.
There's 5 of us. And then us.
And onto this that one of us can't count.
Alright then, on
Alright,
to the
we're off
next
to a
part.
cracking fucking start of this series,
Also,
aren't
didn't
we?
Japan
One of us
technically
can't
start the war?
count and the rest of us are weebs.
Giving me plenty of
Yes.
work to do, I see.
No, you can leave this
Hey.
all in there. Gives it substance. Alright,
Okay.
so who should we start off
Well,
with?
why don't we go
I think-
around and say what vehicles we chose
Alright,
and share a picture.
Velociraptor, Brooklyn, you guys can go first.
Right then, so me and Raptor are arguing for the Panzer IV being the best tank used by the Germans in World War II.
Yes, and can we see an image?
It's not screen recording, you twit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's
We'll
right.
edit in the image in post.
Yeah, we will.
There's an image.
Oh, you're doing the short-barreled.
Well, no, we're doing all of them, so...
Oh, all of them. Okay. So, me and Sauce are doing the Stug,
Stug life.
the Alf's 3 variant. You know, A, G, whatever, all those. So
I am doing the Panzer Kampfwagen 748A,
just say them louder.
which is the Sherman.
I hate you. I hate you so much. You said you were doing the Mounder.
No. I'm doing the Martyr 3. Let me
Okay.
pull up a nice picture of that.
Not
Really, the best German tank
Yeah.
they ever used was the Sherman.
I mean, the British used Panther, so...
So did the French.
Okay. Well, French don't count. They didn't exist. So,
I...
now then, who wants to start off on arguing their point that their tank is superior? Why don't we let Kilroy go first, since he's by himself? He has
Shit.
no one else to support him.
So, if you're just looking at the tank on paper, the Martyr 3 is the worst one out of the list. Y'all have, guns that are comparable or stronger. Y'all have better armor. But what really sets this tank apart is it shows kind of the resourcefulness of the Cubone. Come on. It kind of shows the resourcefulness of Germany in the early war and like mid-war period.
Yeah.
So, Martyr 3. Let's talk this tank. It's a speedy little guy. Can go anywhere between 35 and 42 kilometers per hour on road.
Oh.
So it's a little
But then-
zippy.
What's the armor thickness?
Armor thickness is not great. It's 10 to 50 millimeters.
Exactly. That's why it's so fast.
Um,
Now, is that in this image you shared? Is this bolted armor? This would appear to be bolted armor.
yeah.
Rivets.
Yeah.
So, now, how does it feel to be supporting a tank that is from the First World War?
Okay, buddy.
Well, we know
Um,
who the variable is anyway.
It has a pretty strong gun.
Yeah.
They were either using the 7.5 centimeter Pac 40, or they used a lot of captured 76.2 millimeter F-22 field guns from the Soviets.
So, in other words, in order to be effective, they had to pikey shit off the Soviets.
Well, they captured a lot of shit during Barbarossa, and we're like, what the fuck are we going to do with this? Might as
put
well
to
use
use. I mean,
Right.
that is that. Okay, as much as I don't want to agree with you, that is very resourceful of them.
So there were 3 main Martyr variants. The one
Yes.
I'm choosing to kind of focus on is the Martyr 3. As you can see, it's based off the chassis of the Czech Panzer 38T.
Yeah.
There was also the Martyr 1, which was based off of the French Lorraine tank. Shout out to Fishing in Lorraine.
We're cutting that out.
Oh,
Yeah, I
okay.
don't think they're that.
And then the Martyr 2 was based off of the Panzer 2, if I remember correctly. Then there was also they upgraded it even more with the Nashorn or the Nashorn, which was chassis of either like a Panzer 3 or Panzer 4, whatever they had on hand, with a flak 88 on it. So that was really their first attempt of mounting an 88 millimeter cannon on a tank. But what really kind of sticks out to me about this vehicle is, you know, like you said, it's got thin armor, it's got bolted armor. This isn't a like super thoroughly designed tank. Like they didn't set out from the start to make this vehicle like they did the Tiger or the Panther. Or
Yeah, I
something
could
like this.
tell because of its unique design, because the turret's all the way at the back and stuff like that.
This tank was designed to fill a need
For tank destroyers, yeah.
for something to kill tanks. So during Barbarossa, you know, they kind of steamrolled through, but when they came across, you know, a KV-1, a KV-2, a T-34, they're like, you know, the 38T, the Panzer II, hell, even the Panzer III weren't really doing it. They couldn't penetrate their armor. And they found the same thing during the invasion of France. You know, the Matildas were particularly terrifying for them. You know, the Char B. So they needed something to be able to punch through, and that's when they started, you know, developing the long barrel on the Panzer IV. And this was actually kind of the predecessor to the Stug. You know, this was in service before the Stug was. While they were still finishing up the design for a proper tank destroyer, this filled the role, and I think it shows, you know, good resourcefulness, because you've got, you know, it's immediately filling a need that your army has. It's using the goddamn chassis from a tank from another country that you captured. It's using a gun from another country you captured. It's using everything you have available to you to win the fight. And as much as I would say, fuck the Nazis, fuck Germany, fuck Wereaboos, I gotta respect it.
Hey.
I cede my time.
All right.
Since we talked about the prototype Stug, why don't we transition to the actual Stug?
All right.
Who
Well,
wants to start with that one?
yeah, Sauce, you want to take
Okay,
off?
so,
Start it?
well, you can argue inherently, what it boils down to, World War II is a war of economics and it's a war of business. In simple terms, if you can outproduce the enemy, you can win. It's about cost effectiveness. Is the cost of building something going to like outvalue how much use you're going to get out of it? There's no point building something incredibly valuable and incredibly expensive if it's just going to get blown up within 30 seconds of being deployed. And the Stug fits it, is like the embodiment of fitting this niche very well. They build something like over 2,000 just of the 3G, and it basically pays back for itself. It's easy to build, it's quick to produce, it's easy to transport, and it's easy to repair in the field. It's the other thing. It can be, you don't need to be an engineering or a mathematician just to work out how to get the thing working. This is hammer, hit thing very, very hard, and thing will start working again. And I know that's like quite a blunt way of phrasing it, but it's probably the most important way of describing it. It needs to be effectively something needs to be easy to use, so the common man can work out how to use it without breaking it. If it does break, it needs to be able to be put back together cheaply and with less parts. And this is something that actually Albert Speer, who was economics minister, notes a lot, and his constant complaint with the war economy and interior is just that there's so many different overly complex, overly pointless projects going on when they could just be focusing on building something cheap and cheerful, and that's just Stug. It's still fits the criteria of something that needs to have a powerful gun, needs to be cheap, needs to be mobile, but still needs to be armored. It fits all of that. I mean, the thing has a tiny profile. I've got the picture here. This is a variant that was sent to the Finns, and if you look at the JPEG, if it loads, it's barely taller than the average car. It's very, very easy to hide. It's very easy to.
Whoa, is that a swastika on the side of it?
Possibly.
It's
Can't have that.
a finish. It's the finish.
It basically marks it out as a Finnish variant, but
Yes. Yeah,
Right, but do you think YouTube's going to be able to tell the difference?
Yeah.
You don't have to use
It
that.
can
I would
send
actually say.
Just,
I would
it was
say that
just an example image.
Just blur it out. Just blur it out.
I've got one.
Yeah, I'll just blur it out.
Here
Yeah,
we
the
go.
fucking
Try this one.
tank museum blurred it out on theirs.
Here you
Now,
go. This is a This is a better example. This is obviously look at the guy next to it. It's barely taller than him, and it's easily camouflaged. And especially we need to consider not necessarily in the early war, but you need to consider German doctrine and how tank destroyers and assault guns are supposed to operate by the late war, which is how this thing changes. The idea of they're not supposed to be hyper aggressive and advanced because they're supposed to be put in defensible entrenched positions, sit back and pick off targets as they come, and basically be able to be flexible and hold the key points of the line. And it can do that. You can deploy loads of them because they're cheap to build and easy to maintain, so you can cover more points of the line. Look at its silhouette. It's so small you can hide it behind virtually anything and no one will know it's there.
Yeah.
And even then, the gun is still powerful enough that it can take out, say, for the heaviest Soviet or British tanks, you can safely take out whatever you're aiming at. And even if the thing does get knocked out, it's not the end of the world because you can build another one for the same cost. You're not losing anything by losing one, if that makes any sense. Unlike with something like the Tiger, where if you lose one, that was a massive drain on the economy. If you lose one of these, it's like, well, we can just build another one. If you get my drift.
For the
It pays for itself.
Yeah, for the cost of the Stug, you could build. For the cost of the Tiger, I'm sorry, you could build multiple Stugs that would get the same job done.
Exactly. And
The Tiger was something like the Tiger was very technologically advanced and had a lot of engineering put into it, but something like the Stug could get the same job done, and it used less resources and used up less cash and took less time up in the factory.
I think actually Albert Speer puts it pretty well, and he notes a couple of examples of him and Heinz Guderian are having constant arguments with Hitler to say, why are we having so many pointless, overly complex projects that aren't going to go anywhere when we could just streamline production and focus on building new parts, building Panzer IVs and building Stugs and building light tanks. If we do that, then we're set. In fact, one of the things he notes is this gets to the point where they've built so many targets in what's known as the Fiora Protocols, which are basically orders sent out directly from Hitler when he takes command of the army. One of them notes, and I'm quoting here, presented the Führer with a monthly list of tank replacement parts and reported that despite the increase in production, the demand is so high that to raise the production of spare parts, we must decrease the production of new tanks.
Yikes.
That's not how you run an economy effectively.
Germans were big brain.
One thing-
I'm just dropping a screenshot quickly. This is
One thing I have to note about the Stug is that it appears that the cannon doesn't move, and did that bring any disadvantages of its own, particularly due to the fact that World War II was a war of movement. And if you can't really outflank a T-34, even though the gun may be more powerful, what use does it has if it takes 20 minutes to turn and face the enemy?
The way the Stug worked is it was used in more of a defendable way, a defense way, more than an attack way. Now,
Didn't Germany start the war, though?
Yes, but...
Weren't they the aggressors?
I argue it's a case of the role changes as the models go on.
The Germans were much better at defending than they were at attacking, because they had built... The weapons they had built were more... They were used more in a defense way, and they were more effective in a defense way.
But wasn't that because, as the war turned against them, they were no longer able to go on the offensive, therefore it required more defensive technologies rather than, having a vehicle that could do both offensive and defensive?
Well, certain vehicles were more... While they were still pushing that were built, were more effective in the defense role, such as Ferdinand or the Elephant or the Stug. The Stug could sit in the back, and lob shells as the enemy came towards them. Now, as they weren't as good as attacking because they couldn't turn their turrets, so they couldn't make fast movements. And I'm losing my words here. I don't have any.
It kind of seems to me that the Stug is entirely there as a result of the Germans' inability to continue the offensive.
Yeah, but you can also just as easily argue, and again, I am not a Wehrmacht. Fuck Hitler. Fuck Nazis. All my homies hate Nazis.
All my homies hate Nazis.
Exactly.
Hit me hard.
I would argue I am a massive but I would argue I'm a massive fucking Teaboo, but that's neither here or there. But the point is, it's the idea of they realize there is something going wrong and they're quick to adapt to situations. So the early variants of the Stug are there as close infantry support weapons. They're equipped with 10.5 centimeter mortars, as an example. Whatever the 10.5 thing is, I can't remember the exact wording of it is, but it's the idea of they're there for close infantry support, and when they realize it's no longer an offensive war, they put the bigger gun on it, the F2, and swap the rollover. And it's unlike a lot of German armored projects, it actually shows a degree of awareness of what's going on and an actual, attachment to reality.
Now, another thing I would like to bring up about the Stug is that it actually is a smaller price to make, or lower price. The unit cost to build a Stug is 82,000 Reichmarks. Now, the cost of a Panzer IV is 100,000 Reichmarks. Now, it is only a 20,000 difference, but for the same cost you can make a Panzer IV, you can then make one Stug and have 20,000 left over. Now, if you make multiple if you make, let's say, 4 Stugs, 5 Stugs, then you would have enough money to make a 6 Stug instead of making multiple Panzer IVs.
But would
If I said that right.
Panzer IV be the more versatile vehicle of the two because, unlike the Stug, it can actually engage in offensive operations. So, unlike the Stug, which is basically at most effective on the defense in an entrenched position, the Panzer IV can just move out from a defensive position and then go on the attack and counterattack Soviet pushes or Allied pushes, which is an ability the Stug lacks.
I would agree with you, but of course we must argue. Now, I do see the Stug as a very versatile vehicle when compared to the Panzer IV or the Tiger. I do believe the Stug is actually better compared to something like the Tiger. Now, I would say the Stug and the Panzer IV are in a very equal playing field. Something I would say is that the Stug is just because it is lighter armor than the Panzer IV, and because it doesn't have a turret, weighs much less and can move faster. So, in a position where you have to run away, retreat, or you have to push up to a new area, it would be faster than the Panzer IV. And having less weight and having the ability to put less stress on the engine would mean less breakdowns as well.
The Panzer IV was actually a quite reliable tank and actually didn't suffer considering the German tank stereotype of constant breakdowns, Panzer IV was not really one of those stereotypes.
Something else to bring up. You brought up a lot about its low profile, which is good, particularly on the Russian steppes. But what about crew comfort? How would your over 6 foot Aryan man deal in a Stug? Because I'm just saying, in a Martyr you can stand up.
Now,
you can jump if you want to.
I wasn't going to say this, but the Martyr has no cover from the air. Now, something with the Stug, at least it is covered top. So let's say someone runs up, they can't shoot down into your men. With the Martyr, you can just run around the other side of the Martyr and shoot the man that is in there, or the multiple men. Well, what I'm saying is that it's less protected.
Okay, but Kilroy, hypothetically, what if another tank is able to flank yours and just opens up with his machine gun?
Well,
I was going to say, I suppose if you get to that point, though, you probably have bigger issues than that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Considering how it's meant to be used.
Also, talking about the crew layout, as you're saying, I'm posting a photo right now. We can put this in later. This is the Stug layout. Now, as you can see, they keep munition in the bottom of the tank, which is actually a very good area. Let's say you get shot from in front. There's a smaller or a lower likelihood that one of those shells will be hit and explode because of how low down it is. Now, one of the strong disadvantages I do see about this tank is that 3 of the crew members are on the right side of the gun. Now, if you get hit on the right side, all 3 of those men are most likely going to die. But I got nothing.
But the majority of the ammo is on the left
the
side, so if you get hit on the left
majority-
side, you're
You
more
can
likely for the tank to just explode.
You'll get ammo wrapped.
Ammo
So
racked, yeah.
if you're getting outflanked because of the doctrine, if you're getting outflanked by this point, you probably have bigger issues on your plate.
Bigger issues.
It-
Now,
So either-
another
Fuck, how
thing-
did I
3/4 of your
get
crew
first?
dies, or everyone dies.
all of your crew dies.
Okay, so it doesn't sound that much different from a martyr. If you get hit, you're dead.
Well, the nice thing about the Stug is that now some of the varieties of the Stug had extra armor plates on the front, welded or bolted on. I believe I can pull up the information on the armor thickness.
But I
Yes,
thought bolts were bad.
Well, if it's originally welded and then bolted on, it's fine. The reason why bolted on armor is fine is because it shows its weakness in the armor. Because if one of those bolts cracks or breaks off, it leaves it more vulnerable and
Look at
loose.
what happens when a Crusader explodes, and you get the idea of why riveted armor is a bad thing.
Now, another thing about the Stug, as we were talking about the low profile, is actually only 7 feet tall, which is about the average man is 5'9", about 5'9", 6 foot, around there. Now, that is nearly the height of the Stug. The Stug is 7 feet tall. And also the back to the armor. I just found that information. Wanted to bring that up. Back to the armor, it ranges from 16 millimeters in the back and on the top to 80 millimeters on the front, plus the occasional added, like crew added armor of concrete or sandbags or whatever you have on hand. Now, Sauce, if you can bring up that photo of the Finnish soldiers that put concrete on their Stug, if you can find that.
If I can find it, yeah, but
Yes,
it's a case
yes.
of finding it. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
back to
there's a side on it somewhere.
while you're looking at that, this is not the right page. Let me see. So the main armament on the Stug is a 7.5 centimeter
Sound it out.
Well, it's I don't know if
You
it's
got this.
Steg 40.
Found it.
Just
Okay, you know
put it in the chat. I'll tell you.
Yeah, I'm going to put it in the chat real fast.
I found the thing as well.
Good. We can throw that in later.
It's
Yeah,
a very
so-
oh fuck you.
What?
It just sent it's it's not
Sent the wrong
actually-
image? Oh, yeah.
It's not giving me the image, it's just sent you straight to the page. Okay, this
Well,
there you
so
go. This is a mock-up of one that was captured by the Allies in 1945.
yeah. So it has extra concrete plating on the side and on the front, which would say give it an extra 10, 15 inches. Millimeters, sorry.
Yeah, the cost of mobility and speed.
But because you're going to be staying in a entrenched position, you don't need as much mobility and speed because you're going to be sitting, shooting and lobbing shells. Another thing about the Stug is actually a wonderful way in Finland. It would be very effectively because of how there are not a lot of roads, there's a lot of trees and everything. It'd be better because tanks can't get through the trees. The Stug can sit back in a defendable position and lob shells at those tanks they're trying to get through. By the way, I posted the gun in the
Yeah, I
chat,
see it.
so I don't. We can throw that in later or something. I don't know exactly how to say that, but
Just
feel
took
like the other
40L,
thing-
48, 54 rounds.
I feel like we should also consider what the Stug goes on to influence. It does actually lead to quite a lot of theories in NATO post-war. The idea of height is a direct concept. Height is one of the biggest killers in a tank, and they do a survey on this after I think Korea, and then the vast majority of killing shots on tanks are through the turret. So this leads into the inspiration behind for the Swedes, the 103, the thing that looks like a pizza web.
Yeah, the Stridsvegan.
Yeah, that's fine. And basically, their main comparison is after the war, Norway lends them a Stug to analyze, and they come to the conclusion of, well, silhouette and not having a turret is going to be the best way to fight the Cold War. And while the Stridsvang never saw combat, its tests with the British Army of the Rhine, most notably, would suggest the idea of something akin to the Stug but more modern would probably work. So I think it's a case of 2 103s given to the British Armour School in Bovington. And this is a little bit of a tangent. I will make it relevant. I promise.
We'll hold you to
Definitely
that.
not because I love Swedish tanks, but yeah. Basically, they gave 2 to the British Armour School in Dorset. And then 1973, it was given to the British Army of the Rhine for 6 weeks to see what they thought of it. And they operated it alongside the Chieftain. The availability of it never fell below 90%, unlike the Chieftain, which was usually about 50. And the final report stated, quote, "It has not been possible to prove any disadvantage in the S-tank's ability to fire on the move." And so that's the paraphrasing of it anyway. Fuck. English. That would help. Yes, this would.
Y'all invented the language.
But that doesn't mean we can use it properly. I've been in quarantine for 5 months. I have an
Of course, you
excuse.
can't use it properly. You're sticking U's in fucking places they don't belong.
All right. Well, I was just looking at the document and I realized that we hadn't talked about the crew layout and the number of crew. Now, the Stug, the commander also acts as the radio operator, so it only has a crew of 4: a driver, a commander, a gunner, and a loader, which is very helpful because you don't lose as many men when the tank gets destroyed or the men die.
Especially with the manpower shortages, late
shortages, yes, you don't lose as many men. That is why something that has, let's say, 5 crew, such as the Panzer IV, with a radio operator, driver, commander, gunner, and loader, is less effective with manpower and cost and resource production. With the Stug, you can have less men, you use less men in it, less money, and less resources to produce one, but you can get a higher kill count, higher production value, if that's what you want to call it.
What was the Stug's ammo capacity compared to the Panzer IV?
That actually would take a little bit of looking. Look for that. Sauce, is there anything else you would like to bring?
Well, nothing that was involving shitposting. No, I was just going to ask, can we appreciate the Su-76 Stug for a moment?
Oh my god.
Jesus, that's
I'll look at
gross.
It's so
That's
gross.
gross.
I love it. I love it. It looks like the first ever tank I drew. There's multiple fucking
Okay.
trapezes.
I just found for the Stug could hold 44 rounds.
Panzer IV
Let me
can
go
hold,
into depth.
Panzer IV can hold 87 rounds for its main gun, and it has about 3,000 rounds for its machine guns.
Okay. The ammo capacity of the Stug Alf's G is 44 rounds with the stock gun of 44 rounds, and the second 75mm gun 28 rounds. 5 derp gun, and the horrifyingly low 36 rounds with their top gun. Don't know what that means, but first, historical ammo capacity of the Stug Alf's 3, the Stug 3 Alf's G, armed with the second 75mm gun, was around 54 rounds. So it matters about what version you are using, or what version you were talking about. If you're talking about the one with the 105mm gun, it's a 36 rounds. If you're talking about the 75mm, it's 44 rounds. So if you're talking about 75mm could also hold 54. Okay, so it ranges from 44, 45, around there. I suppose it's about how comfortable the crew wants to be having extra ammo laying around. All right, well, if someone else
move on
wants
to
to take
the Panzer
the-
IV.
Panzer IV,
Yeah. Okay then. So, the Panzer IV was the second most produced German tank of World War II, only by about 1,500 models behind the Stug 3. It had multiple different variants, from the OS A down to the OS G with 2 F variants. So the OS A through F variants, F1 variant, had the short-barreled 75mm Kampfwagen Cannon 37L/24, which was a infantry support gun used for dealing with enemy anti-tank positions and bunkers. And it also came with 2 MG34s, one mounted coaxially and another mounted in the hull, except for the OS B variant, which sacrificed the ANSI variant, which sacrificed the hull-mounted MG. These tanks were produced from 1937 through 1945, and they performed reasonably well in the Battle of France and Poland, though there weren't all that many of them at the time. And after encountering stuff like the Matilda tank, the Germans realized they need to upgun it, and they ordered 80 variants, which would have a more powerful gun to deal with the British armor. But due to France capitulating sooner than expected, they cancelled that order. So it wasn't until Operation Barbarossa, when they ordered the OS F2 variant, that they actually gave it a better gun, and they gave it the usual one that we will come to know it with, the 7.5cm Pak 40 L46, which was capable of dealing with pretty much any Allied and Soviet tank of the time period. And then in the last runs of the the OFS H and J, they gave it the L48. Is it the L48? Yeah, L48, which had stabilizer. No, not stabilizer. The recoil muffler. So the armament basically was procedurally upgraded to meet threats as they evolved, and so was the armor. So, for example, the Panzer for A started out with only 15mm of armor for both superstructure, hull, and turret. And then as they went through the different variants, they upgraded the armor in various places up till the point where they got to the OFS J, which had about well, they basically got it to 80mm of no, it's OFS H. They got it. OFS H basically got the highest upgrade to armor out of all the Panzer IV variants, with 80mm of frontal armor for basically all the front side of the tank, so the turret, superstructure, hull. Everywhere else was upgraded to about 20 to 30mm, and it also was given the Zimmerit paste to prevent Allied magnetic tank charges from sticking to it. And also some of the variants also had the Schützen skirts and oblique armor to increase armored protection from various rounds that would be fired at the tank. Speed, it varies from variant to variant again, because the earlier tank was only about 18 tons. The last variant, the H variant, was about 25. So speed was originally around about 31 kilometers per hour max speed, with about 25 sustained on roads. And the OFS B got up to 42 kilometers per hour, except the OFS H and J, which lost speed because they just were so heavily armored. Still fairly speedy tanks, nonetheless, fairly averaging for the medium tank. They all had a operational range of about 200 kilometers, and because of the reliability that was there, they could actually drive that full 200 kilometers. Unlike stuff like the Tiger that would just break down if it ventured.
I was gonna say the Panther.
The Panther, yes,
Yeah.
with its
150 kilometers.
shitty transmission.
That keeps on breaking down. But the OFS J could have an operational range of about 320 kilometers. So very good for a medium tank at the end of the war for the Germans.
How much did all the variant changing cost of like changing parts, calibers, armor, etc.?
So for the most part, the change of variants wasn't done as we build a set number of tanks and then we upgrade them. It's a production run. So each variant was its own production run. So they built OFS A's, and then they built OFS B's, and then C's, D's, E's, F, and all the rest. So they never actually upgraded any of the tanks beyond maybe a few like cosmetic changes. Anything like any new variant was made from scratch. The initial cost at the A was around about 103,000 Reichsmarks. However, the like J and H were around about 115,000 Reichsmarks. So, whilst more costly than a Stug 3, the amount of stuff that went onto them and into them was a lot more. And if we want to talk about profile of the tank, the height of the tank was only 8 feet, so about a foot taller than the Stug 3, but this is a tank which also has a turret, which means it can turn to face its gun at any threat from any direction. And all that sacrifices is a additional foot to be able to do that. It also had a crew of 5, so yes, one more than the Stug 3 has. However, it's still a very efficient division of labour inside the tank, with a commander, gunner, loader, driver, and a radio operator who would also operate the hull-mounted machine gun.
Anything else?
Raptor,
I think what you really need is you need a tank as tall as possible just to flex on the end.
Yeah, that's what,
Now,
so you can do your superior area and calisthenics from inside the tank.
I would just like to say that you can
tree as well. I'm guessing
you can add in the fact that it's not only is it a easily mass-produced tank, but comparatively to things like the Tiger. But
yes,
you got the tactical flexibility that's been mentioned. Just the fact that this is a tank that saw service through pretty much the entire war, because that's 1938 in Czechoslovakia.
Yeah.
And that's 1942 or 44. I mean.
Now, I do admit I do like how you can see the evolution of the tank through the addition of a larger caliber gun and side skirts, additional armor for the tracks. Back to my cave.
I can also just like to add in the fact that the Panzer III and the Panzer IV are what the Blitz was built off of.
Yeah, they were workhorses.
Too bad they didn't have that many of them.
When you read about the Germans pushing through Poland, or the Germans going through the Ardennes, it isn't Tigers, it isn't Stugs, it's Panzer IIIs and IVs.
It really was more like Panzer IIs.
Yeah, Panzer IIs and 1s.
It was
Panzer
a lot
IIs,
more
so.
Panzer IIs and 38s.
True.
So if they had enough Panzer IIIs and Panzer IVs, you wouldn't need to build Martyrs. You wouldn't need Nashorn. You wouldn't need tubes.
And you wouldn't need Stugs. So
yeah.
Why now?
The Stug 3 was based off the Panzer III chassis, if I remember correctly. And then if you look at the the Sturmgeschütz 4, the Jagdpanzer 4, the Nashorn, the Jagdpanzer 4, the Nashorn, Hummel, Flak Panzer 4, they were all based off the chassis of the Panzer 4.
Well, yeah, because eventually they got their shit together, but it
so it just shows how
took a while.
The tank was, because they could just make about 4 different tank hunters, a self-propelled artillery piece, and also an anti-aircraft flak gun out of the Panzer 4 chassis.
Can we just say thank you, Germany? Thank you, Nazi Germany, for having so many different designs. That probably won us the war. Yeah. Or it helped. It helped.
Well, changing production run for every new variant of tank, regardless of what that tank was, doesn't exactly help you make a lot of them.
I mean, say this, but this is literally the first thing the Speer, when he's head of the economy, starts ranting about, and so does Guderian. They're both like, why do we have so many pointless projects that aren't fucking doing anything or inherently a waste of time, well, we could just focus on building parts and building new tanks. And Hitler's like, but
No,
my 88
big-
millimeter
big gun.
gun.
Big armor.
I mean, that's literally what happens,
Well,
and they're just
Now
like,
Stalin builds a bigger tank. I want a bigger tank.
I mean,
Hitler
it
said he
is.
wanted a big dick gun. We will give him a gun
And then they were
very
like, fuck you, we're gonna
large.
make a dicker max.
It should also be noted that
Man.
that unlike some later tanks, where like for instance the Stug is a response to environments, the Panzer IV is about tactical flexibility,
Yes. Yeah.
and some of the other later tanks, like for instance the Tiger. Well, the Tiger was built for it was designed for a war situation that was no longer in existence by the time the Tiger started entering service, because it was designed to be a breakthrough tank.
God, I love that everyone can just shit on the Tiger because we all hate it.
Yeah, everyone's,
Yeah,
It
fuck
doesn't
Gen 3
even
tanks.
look
All my
yeah.
buddies hate
a
Gen 3
box
tanks.
with another
Yeah.
box on top. It doesn't
That's
even
what it
look
is.
cool.
It's a box with like a cookie tin on top. That's what it is.
It
It's a
doesn't
box
even-
with a box and a cookie tin on top with an 88 millimeter cannon just kind of pushed in it.
At least when us Brits build a heavy tank, it looks interesting at the absolute minimum. It either looks like an utter monstrosity or it looks cool.
Well, I do have to admit, with the Tiger, it does. You can't blame the world that it has become an infamous face along with in the war when you think of German tanks and everything. But yes, I do understand what you're saying. It looks kind of stupid. It's a sardine can with a cookie tin on top. It's dumb. It's
The
dumb.
Brits and the Germans never really understood sloped armor, did they?
They really did not.
Well,
Although
the Germans did in the end, but
The
They did in the end. Yeah.
Panzer IV, except for that little bit that has the
Hull mount
the
on
actual gunner,
the hull
driver's
mount
sight
and the
and such.
driver's sight. Yeah.
Yeah. That if you look at it below
Most
that,
of it
it's
is
angled.
slant. Yeah, most of
Yeah,
it is angled.
yeah, but compared to the Sherman,
turret, the
Compared
turret,
to the
most of that
Sherman,
is-
yes.
I also like the thing of the they talked about this on the Black Prince video of in Bovington of the Brits were like, no, I know you said you wanted sloped armor, but we can't figure out how to put it in it. Well, the Americans and Soviets are like, bro, we've done it already.
They're like, you already did it on the Centurion. Why can't you do it again?
No, it's not possible.
No, just can't.
It's not. We just can't.
T-34 and Sherman be like, what if the entire tank is sloped?
What if we made a circular tank? Shells
would
never.
IS-3.
Would like to know your location.
Now then, is there any other points anyone would like to bring up, or maybe swap
think-
sides or something?
You guys made a good point about how the Panzer IV was like a designed tank that kind of evolved with the situation. Stug came about because of changing war situations.
There was a problem and it needed to be filled, and that was what the Stug filled.
The Martyr is
there needed to be a role for a tank destroyer.
The best example of that, of them realizing we have a problem, we need to fix that problem now. We're going to plan for a nice solution, the Stug, but in the meantime, we need something so we can stop our enemy. And so, yeah, the Martyr's not a great tank. It's not a tank.
So, maybe you would like to swap sides and join.
Nope. I just
Panzer.
think from a
No?
design point, it's admirable.
It's I must admit, it is a very vulnerable and a kind of a not very useful vehicle, but
Not useful.
it was effective at its job, and it was low cost, had a good high caliber gun, was very resourceful. But my main problem with it is the armor. There are certain guns that men could hold that would shoot through that.
Flashbacks.
TTRS intensifies.
Me sitting there having a Sherman shoot its 50 cals through the fucking side. Oh. Now then, that's a little bit off point. Let's see.
Well,
Yeah,
we had
is
to
there-
make at least one. We got to make at least one TK reference in every video, right?
Yeah, what's our TK reference?
That was our TK, right?
That was our TK reference? Yeah, that was our
Yeah.
TK. Yeah, the Martyr, crew about to go pull a volleyball team. And,
Yeah.
Get a little bit of holes. Get some holes poked in them. Now then, what do we think? Does anyone else want to bring up any other points? Velociraptor, you didn't talk a lot. Do you have anything that you would like to bring up?
Yeah, it's kind of because I woke up this morning and Rowdy had basically done most of the work for the team.
Yeah, Rowdy did a lot. I'm gonna write a script next time when we do like the British or whatever.
Can you guys tell that I did 10 minutes of research?
Here.
Yeah.
Let me share my screen real quick.
Also, because I woke up 10 minutes before recording.
Look at this. This is the notes that he sent me.
Okay. Nerd.
I had time.
I mean, we're both doing the same degree, but still, nerd.
So that's it. Speak now, forever hold your peace.
Yep.
I guess so. Yes.
Well, here. Well, so I've made my choice while you two were like saying slow
Alright,
down
sorry,
and
I'm
stuff.
back. Oh, Kilroy left. Why was it?
Well, Kilroy's tank is to fill
Oh,
out.
he's back. Okay. So then, with
sorry.
all of our points brought up, what is the now? No one has anything left they want to say, do they?
No.
I mean, we
No.
could always mention how the Stug 3 and Panzer 4 both served in Syria in the 6-Day War.
And both of them all but fell apart because the Israelis had centurions.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can say that,
do
or
be
we
like
can,
that.
or we cannot, because I don't want to
This
think
tank
about that.
empty. Yeet.
My
Israeli
wereaboo
centurion,
brain doesn't want to
1967.
acknowledge that some inferior race dared to use the superior.
Actually, Hitler
German
actually
vehicle.
liked
And we are
Muslims.
I'm cutting
instantly
I'm
He said
cutting
the,
that part
the
out.
And
Turks
we
prefer
are-
to win at Vienna.
That's getting caught.
Okay, yeah, that's
And
gonna
we're
get cut.
gone.
But now, Austin, what is the superior vehicle in your eyes? Now that we have told you, gone over it, what do you think?
Well, the Martyr is, to fill a niche. Metal box with a wheel could also fill a niche, so definitely not that.
Fuck off.
Yeah,
Just
fuck
say-
you.
Though Velociraptor didn't speak much, his little speech thing about how the Panzer was pretty much, or the Panzer IV was pretty much there the entire war, did almost convince me. The Panzer IV, the Stuke also ultimately filled out cost efficiency, which is one of the primary factors of Germany's defeat. So I will have to say that Stug.
Nice. The
Stug
Dang.
is the superior tank in the German army.
Plug
We're
for
winning,
Stug
Dad.
Life merch.
Yeah, let's get the plug-in for the
Go
Stug
support the
Life
Tank
merch.
Museum. Get your Stug Life t-shirts.
Exactly. Now, we must say, please support the Tank Museum, because we all want to go see it.
And support
I
your
don't.
local Tank Museum if there's one
We're
close by.
not-
Yes,
Sponsored,
go
we just
support
need
your
our shekels.
support your local tank museum. Tanks are really expensive. Now, of course, why do you
Oh,
think
really?
the
I
Germans
never would have
lost
guessed
the war?
that.
Now, the Germans lost the war because they didn't have the money needed to produce tanks. Now,
And what they should have been doing is making
Use-
merch.
what they should have
could-
done was make merch, and they should have used honey. Today's video is sponsored by honey. All right, we're done.
Today's video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends
Shadow Legends.
Vicious mobile gaming platform.
of
I heard they're adding
2020.
tanks,
And,
right?
two of us are students and are therefore poor and would probably be deep throating a cock
Hey,
right now
hey.
for money. But instead, because we don't want to do that, we're metaphorically doing it on
Remember,
YouTube.
I'm a student as well. I just
Yeah,
live
but
off
I'm a
of my
college
parents.
student.
Don't count.
Go to public
Yep,
school.
yep.
It doesn't fucking
But-
count.
The most expensive thing in a public school is a yearbook.
Yeah,
You're not
Yeah.
wrong. That's the sad thing.
we're both paying student debt, and again, Those dicks aren't gonna suck themselves, so we're
Ha, you're-
metaphorically doing it on YouTube. So give us
Yeah.
fucking shekels now.
What are we, Jewish?
Gib
And
shekel.
we've been
That's
demonetized
getting
again.
Also,
And
I've been
when are we
playing
ending
Call
the
of Duty
video?
through
When
this
are we
entire
stopping
thing.
recording?
I don't know. I'm just gonna.
Here, I'll finish
Oh,
off
don't-
with this. Well, we have decided the best German tank, and our opinions are infallible, of course. What do you think the best German tank is? We'll be doing a poll shortly after this to decide.
Let's be real though, the M4 Sherman was the best German tank of the war.
Shut up!
M4 Sherman's the best tank in the world.
You're
Oh.
literally across the room, and you chose the
M4
worst
best
tank.
tank
Your
of the
point
war.
doesn't matter.
Actually, I'll have you know it was the fucking Cromwell.
M4 best tank.
Cromwell.
I'm
M4.
sorry.
Crusader.
Corrosive tank, corrosive tank.
It will appear on r/things that Wereaboo say.
It's shit Verbu say.
Shit, wherever
Actually,
you
I'll
say.
have you know.
Or we'll just mean the fuck out of you on their Scheiser.
Or we will bully you in the comments, depending on how drunk I am today.
Or how
Yes.
sober I am.